Hey, it's Mosquito, also known as Chris. Welcome to the shop. Today, I'm going to see how far I can get on jam-packed. See how far I can get on this. Pay no attention to that. You don't know what's coming yet. So, yeah, I'm going to try and get as much of this assembled as I can. Get the hardware put back together, get the bottom all set, fans, radiator, res, all that stuff. Get that put back together, and then get the whole system installed and see how far we get with that. All right, so I'm going to take some fans off because those aren't the ones I'm going to use. Although I'm sure it would be fine, but I just don't feel like using these ones. I have some other ones that have some white trim on them. I think they're similarly rated. I'm planning on running these in an exhaust form instead of trying to blow through the radiator. And I guess we'll see how that does. I'm not sure if it'll work correctly or not. I mean, obviously it'll work, but I tested it out a couple of times on the bench with actually a smaller radiator, and it seemed like it worked out okay. It's just that I'd really rather have the fans exhausting out through the bottom rather than just drawing air in and blowing into the case and then not really having anywhere to go. And part of the problem with that modification that I did for the dual GPUs is that now takes up half of the fan slots that were in the case to begin with. So that's kind of why I want to have this be the exhaust, because I want it to be able to intake from the rest of the case and then be able to just shoot it out the bottom and go wherever it goes. Because I'm going to have a fan on the side of the chassis, and then I'm going to have these two fans, and that's it. So yeah, anyway, I'm going to start swapping these out. I think I'm going to twist that one this way to get those closer to each other. That way those will be same length, more or less, give or take. Wherever they get to on the motherboard, they'll be actually pretty much the same length, because that one's got to come from over there. So yeah, that's usually what I prefer to do anyway. Then I just screwed up what I said I was going to do. Oops. There we go. And these are Arctic fans. I don't remember what their particular model was. Bionics P120, pressure optimized with PWM. Actually, this was the other thing I was going to do. Now I modified this and I didn't need to. But oh well. I'll get over that. It's been too long since I've done any of this. I actually need to put a whole lot of stuff back together first, because I got to get the power cable back in. So let's get all that stuff out. I'm trying to figure out how I want to do this, because this gets a little bit tricky in that I need... So the radiator mounts to the fans on the bottom, and then the bottom mounts to the chassis, which is how this whole thing gets held together. But that power plug needs to route through here, and I can't get this off when this is installed. So I might have to route the power cable out through here, just have it dangling until I can get that installed. Or I just skip this light thing altogether. Nah, it's there. I might as well use it. Okay, so I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that power plug off of the case, and then I'm going to run that through here. Boy, that sure seems like it was a lot trickier than it needed to be. And as if that wasn't enough, I don't know that that's long enough to get through there. Oh, joy. Well, guess we're going to make a field trip inside and grab some longer screws. And then, because it's been run for a little while and I haven't cleaned it out in a bit, I decided to disassemble the CPU water block before I installed it on my actual hardware. So I took it off and I just kind of cleaned it out. There's a little bit of junk in there, so I just kind of cleaned it off, brushed it out with a little brush, and used a little cleaning stuff to basically take care of any of the junk that was in there. I wasn't really concerned about the discoloration or anything like that, so I just sort of cleaned it, put it back together, and go ahead and reinstall everything. Top I/O stuff to put back in, so we're going to do that because I'm going to need to run all this wherever into the case. So there's just 2 screws that holds that in. Pretty easy. However, what I need to do before I do that is install the top aluminum piece, because that gets attached with 2 screws from underneath, which I can't get to if I install the I/O. Alright, so I just ended up using this guy. Couldn't find my short screwdriver, so I just used part of an impact driver. And I got that top thing installed. So now we will get this part installed. And there's 2 little posts that this sits on and goes right up into that. Now I think I'm going to install a power supply. Should work just because it's easier. And I think I actually have to, if memory serves correctly, I actually have to install this before I install reservoir and all that kind of stuff, because it's got to slide in there and I don't think I have enough clearance once I get the res in there. A little bit of tubing, and this is like it's a much more rigid tubing. Like, for example, this is some of AlphaCool's stuff and it's pretty bendy. This is not. It's, I don't know, easily noticeable, but it's roughly 5/16, I think, 15, 30 seconds. It's this stuff, whatever that is. I mean, obviously it's not hardline, but it's not like what we normally use for water cooling. It's kind of a more rigid version of softline, and this is specifically used for the push fittings that I have. So these are the push fittings that I'm going to be using. These are stainless steel, but they're basically just like a shark bite fitting, if anybody's familiar with shark bite. But G-quarter thread, so they thread into everything, and then you just push the tubing into here. I don't know why I decided to do that. I just kind of did. It's honestly not that big of a deal, because the way I'm going to end up routing the tubing, I'm only using 4 of them, and you're only going to be able to really see 2 of them, except for the top window. So I don't know. It's just kind of something I wanted to try, because I don't know. The same old water cooling fittings over and over again just get kind of boring. So I have this one up top, so I push that in. It's definitely extra, but I think it's easier to do that to kind of get it in and around than it is to try and get it in place otherwise. So let's see if we can't eyeball-a-roo that guy. And let's see, we'll eyeball it right about there. So then I'm going to take my tubing cutters, eyeballing my spot, about there, aim for a little bit long, if anything, because you can always cut it down again. More obnoxious if you have to take it out, get a new piece. So then down in here, and that's going to be too long, but you can kind of see, hopefully, what I'm trying to do. There's a fitting back up in there that I need to try and get to, but let's see, just a little bit shorter, maybe about that much. Whee! All right. I think that should do, because my goal is to get the upper and lower lines to be somewhat parallel. So those are both in there. And that looks pretty good to me. One of the less than interesting things was running all these cables, because I just kept screwing it up. I forgot that in order to route the power cable up here, I have to fish it through a little hole here first, which means that this end had to come out. So once I kind of got everything situated, I had to take the radiator back off, take the plug off, and then take the wires off the back of the plug, and then fish them through there, and then connect them to here. Then I had to do a fun little dance where I set the case up on its nose, or side, I guess, back, whatever, and then had to get all this put back together so that I could reassemble it, and then get all the wires, you know, run where they needed to be, while I could still get everything put together. So got that done. I went and grabbed some longer screws from the house, and these ones are actually a different type. So instead of button head, they're just like reset or recessed, kind of standard machine screw. And so that's all set. Those are holding in the radiator. Got the bottom plinth hooked up to the case now. I have the fan cables are run. I'm probably going to do a little bit of better cable management over here. So then I've got the fan wires also running up along with the RGB wires. And so the fan's connected, hardware's mostly installed. I got the motherboard, I put the CPU and the water block on that. Got the graphics cards installed. I haven't put the back plate on the GPUs yet, so I have this plate that'll go here. little dusty. So this plate will go here and kind of cover up some of the uglies. So it'll cover up these holes, the cut edges, and the gap up top. So that'll go there nicely. But this is, I guess, I don't know if I want to say it's still in the trial stage, but it's sort of the hardware fitment and just getting everything all set up. So I've got the GPUs are in there, motherboard is in there, and the fan cables are all hooked up. RGB is hooked up. Those are run. I'll need to do some better cable management once I get that far. I'm actually not 100% sure. I mean, I still have the fan pump and PWM signal to deal with, so that'll come back here and take up some space there. But that's more or less it that I think will get stashed on the back of the board, because I've already got things like the audio header, this top I/O plate. You know, that's all hooked up already. The power button, the power LED, the hard drive LED, audio, and the two USB ports are already routed, because, I mean, that's pretty boring, all things considered. It's just hooking up some wires. So this might be the only bit of wiring that still needs to be tucked in behind the motherboard, so hopefully the cable management won't be too bad on that side. The thing that's going to be a little bit more interesting is I got to get the 24 pin, the 8 pin, and then I've got to get the power for the two graphics cards there too. So that's, I mean, that's 4 8-pin connectors that I got to route. So there's a little bit of space above the power supply. So that's where I'm hoping I'll be able to stash it. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, anyway, I got this all kind of mocked up, put together. All right, I think this is probably where I'm going to stop this one before it gets too long. So kind of have everything put back together, and what I'm going to save for the next one is filling the loop and doing the leak test, and then see what we can do about getting this thing running. Anyway, I appreciate you watching and sticking around this long. So if you enjoyed what you saw and you're not already subscribed, please do so, and I will catch you in the next one.